Hello, everybody. I'm Tyra, and I'm with the Northwest Center for Sexual Assault. And today, we are going to talk about, basically, we're just going to open the floor and talk about domestic violence, sexual assault, or any type of violence that we witness within our communities. And me and Evan's main objective or goal for this discussion will be to let our Black men know in the community that we are here as well for our Black women, but we are here for them, and just providing this safe haven where they can feel safe with expressing things they have experienced related to trauma or assault, and just feel free without judgment or punishment to have that space. So first I will let Evan introduce himself, and then we'll go into what we do at the center as advocates.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Tyra. My name is Evan. I am the male advocate for the Let's Talk program. I just kind of want to echo what Tyra was saying. One of the stigmas that we've come in contact here at the center is that domestic violence is just primarily a women's issue, and that's not necessarily true. It affects men as well, and in that sense. And then in addition, it's just not a women's issue either, because we as men need to stand up for women so we can be in a world where we don't necessarily have to worry about domestic violence or interpartner violence or anything like that. It's an issue that affects not just the Black community, but all communities across everywhere.
Okay, so what me and Evan do at the center, we offer individual advocacy. That's what we are, advocates. And with that, we just help victims or survivors that come into the center with outside resources or resources we can provide within the center, with that being crisis intervention, support groups, counseling. And with victims, we also offer forensic exams within 96 hours of being assaulted by a perpetrator. And of course, all the services at our center are completely free. And that's another reason we have, wanted to put our name out there in the community, because we have so many resources that are available to us, not only available, but also free, to where we could knock down a few barriers and, get the help we need to start healing as not only individuals, but a community. So I'm gonna let this, this is our clinic to the left of the screen, and that's where the survivors come in and we do the forensic exams. That's 24 hours. Also as well, 24 hours, 7-day-a-week crisis helpline. So at this time, Evan, do you have anything to follow with that?
No, ma'am.
And we just want to let our survivors know, and anyone know, that we're here for you, because you're not alone, and our doors are always open to anyone in the community, race, social class, economic, anything. At this moment, I'm just going to give everyone in the, because we're going to go ahead and start with our open discussion, and we don't know where it might flow, because we ask everyone to be themselves and be transparent. So we're just going to give a trigger warning to the community and let them know, if you decide to go any further with this recording, we will be talking about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, violence period in our community, sexual assault, mental health. And so this is at your discretion to continue viewing this slide. We'll have a few more trigger warnings throughout the presentation, but we're just going to give you a discretion and remind you to practice self-care if triggered throughout this presentation, open discussion. And with that being said, we're going to provide you with our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline services. So this is the number, and we're going to leave it up for a little while, and I'm going to pass the screen over to our moderator, which is Octavia.
Thank you, Tyra. Hello, everyone. I'm Octavia Wright. I will be moderating this webinar for you all this evening. And I've been in Arkansas maybe 5 years now, so I would like to call this home now. And I'm truly excited about being a part of this panel. I've seen how much the community has grown, and I'm excited about being an advocate and hopefully pushing this forward, especially in diversity and some of the issues that we face, that we can start facing those things and attacking them head on. So I'm so thankful to be a part of this today. And I also wanted to mention the giveaway where you'll get more instructions on this if you visit the Let's Talk NWA page on all social media platforms. But if you take a screenshot of the flyer and tag the page, and we'll be doing a drawing to win a giveaway. So stay tuned for that as well. And now I will ask our panelists to introduce themselves and also just talk about the importance of having a safe place to speak out about trauma and the importance of counseling or while experiencing trauma. So I guess we could start with Natasha.
Hi, so I am Natasha DeVon. I am a local actor, poet, and activist, and a writer. I've been in the Northwest Arkansas area for going on 5 years now, wrapping up my 4th year really soon. I guess for me, the importance of having a safe space to go to is knowing the downfall of not having that safe space to go through to. So I'm a survivor of different kinds of abuse, and I know it was something that I thought I had overcome or survived in this way where I was functioning. And I think there's a difference between being a functioning survivor and being an active one. And when I say being an active one, is you're actively making sure that you're checking in on yourself mentally. You're actively making sure that you are getting that help you need, reaching out to those resources. And for so long, I want to say within the last 4 years, I pretty much lived everything past that without having those resources and those safe places to go through to. And because of that, I had a lot of triggers. I sabotaged several relationships. I developed so many different types of like anxieties based around this trauma that I thought I was maintaining and or controlling, but I was essentially just squishing it into a box. And when it would erupt, and I would not have the tools to take care of myself and or the situation. So I think definitely having a safe space to go to is important, because without that safe space, you're really not healing. Like you're not even coping, you're just moving from day to day, and you're smothering what actually happened, your actual issues without that space.
Thank you. Carl, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm Carl Dunn, and I've been on the board with Let's Talk for a while, and I'm a local community advocate. Just really appreciate y'all for putting this together. This is really awesome. I'm really happy and grateful to be a part of it and to potentially shine some light on what men's perspective is on domestic violence, and just how we do need to support Black women and how that affects our communities as a whole. So I've been in Fayetteville for 13 years. I got married in Fayetteville. I came here to open a business 2006 the first time, and then 2012 they all failed. But I'm doing digital marketing. Been knowing Evan and Tyra, and that you guys doing a great job. Dr. Valandra, who started Let's Talk, actually, she's the kind of like the dean of the social department at U of A, and I'm just so happy to see that the program is still going and doing stuff like this, because I think it's important. So whatever I can provide to the conversation to kind of help, I'm willing and able, and will do whatever I can.
Thank you, Carl. Mike, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Day. I am a full-time videographer, part-time rapper, all-around activist. I moved to Fayetteville in 2013 to finish up my bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism and African American studies. And in doing so, that's where I found my love for filmmaking and telling the Black story from a different perspective. I have been fortunate to work with a lot of people that's on the panel today. And yeah, I'm just someone who is always willing to listen, especially when we're talking about an issue involving Black women. I think a lot of times we talk about Black men issues and we know they are there, but I think we need to start realizing that Black women are actually at the forefront of a lot of history that is being made. And so without them, you know, a lot of history wouldn't have been made. So I'm just here to shed light on the experiences that I've seen, and just to be another outlet for people.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Nate, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, I'm Nate Walls. I'm the owner of Secondhand Smoke and the founder of Second Helping NWA. I'm a food activist, and I do a lot of outreach for the communities, a lot of communities that are similar to the communities that I grew up in. And Mike Day was talking about just how we want to shine a light on the women, but a lot of our stories starts with the women, especially if you were raised in a single mom household, and I'll talk more about how I think that this plays a part in my evolution, and a lot of these kids that I deal with in their process too, and how they deal with women. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Nate. And Devonta, could you introduce yourself and the importance of having a safe place to go to when experiencing trauma?
Yes, hi, everybody. My name is Devonta Dickerson. I've been here in Fayetteville for the past 12 years. I moved here from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Pine Bluff was filled with a lot of trauma, you know, in my childhood growing up. Just to piggyback off what Nate talked about, growing up in a single parent home, experiencing my mom, you know, having, you know, domestic violence, you know, portrayed on her and everything. And I think growing up is just, you know, wanted me to get out of that space and just better myself. So I started the Black Label Show in 2017, I believe, and I met with Mike Day for the first time, and me and him spoke in JJ's in a crowded bar, and, you know, he just gave me some type of, you know, real advice, and it motivated me to, you know, try to put people together in a space where people would never ever been able to meet if it wasn't for, you know, this show that I was creating. So the show that I created is a hip hop platform, but it's for up and coming business owners as well. So I think having a safe space for everyone, you know, like, you know, color of me and any, like, Hispanics and all people of color, period. I think, you know, we need that, and going forward, if we work together, I think we can, you know, accomplish that.
Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. And again, thank you for just being a part of this. I'm super excited. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot today myself. And we'll move on to what is Real Men Cry. Real Men Cry's goal of discussion is to provide a safe place for not only Black women, but Black men to feel empowered to share personal experience without the fear of judgment or punishment. We all hurt, and we all deserve to heal. Together, we are breaking the cycle of violence in our community. So now we'll have a voice recording of a poem called The Stigma by Natasha. And then in conclusion, we'll discuss it and see if anything resonates with you all.
One.
When a Black man is depressed, he will bury his agony between the thighs of a woman, label her bitch, slut, his mother, all the things that he despised. Friends will look to him as hero, body count rises like water. Call him Harvey, destruction, forgiveness, anything but man. Familiarize himself with the dark side of the moon, transforms the night, Revenge falls upon extension. Deception cons the bay into believing that nothing of earth exists. The alien, foreign, opposites and exactly like his father. Masculinity floats, sinks, then drowns, unaware how to swim to shores, unaware how to swim to solutions, roll up his problems in hopes to blaze away the truth. The community will welcome this behavior. Boys will just be boys, but Black men will only be statistics, prison numbers, emotionally and physically unavailable. No one will notice that his shadows are demons. Difficult to point out assassins in the dark. The truth is he won't understand his rage, just that he feels it all the time. The sadness, the isolation, the inability to identify the body lying next to him, so he drinks, because seeking help makes you weak. It makes you less of a man. He substitutes answers for grandma's prayers. The light inside of him ignites, metamorphs into flame, engulfs the body. He now moves through life as bones and ashes, a phantom spirit of his former self. But you call him father, husband, and even your son, don't you?
That was extremely beautiful and powerful.
Thank you.
I guess we all, whoever wants to chime in, did that resonate with you? Could you relate to that? I know for me, it made me think of the cycle. Whatever we see growing up, we normalize it, whether it's hurt, whether it's trauma, whatever, we begin to continue those patterns, even if we know those patterns are not healthy for us. But anybody can chime in at this point.
I felt called out. Man, that's crazy, because I feel like you hit a point where we bury your very first line. We bury our emotions in between thighs, and I know for a long period of time, and sometimes I even still catch myself doing that. Now being married, and it's just it affects you, if you don't address it. And so one of my biggest issues growing up was just that self-confidence and being able to do something other than playing basketball or getting behind a mic. And when you felt like things weren't working, you felt like you were spiraling out of control, you start to pick up these self medications, whether it be weed, whether it be drinking, whether it be sex, whether it be porn, like something to make you feel like you're okay. And so yeah, that hit deep, Natasha, per usual. Every poem I've heard from her, it hits deep for different reasons. This one is no exception.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like it's a question that we ask at the end, and it's almost like a statement she made at the beginning, where we do bury our problems, and we aren't addressing them. We don't have the power, the empathy, or the fortitude to be able to grasp what happened when we were younger. Because I know I come from Little Rock. I know Mike is from Little Rock too, Nate, and then, Devonta from Pine Bluff. We all got our stories, and all the women, I know y'all from y'all areas too, and we've seen things that trauma, it reverberates through our brain. It's soft tissue damage is what I call it, and we don't know it. And, like, you can have a wreck, and you don't know that your neck is going to be hurt like 2 months later. The same thing with racism, the same thing with our inter-partner relationships with our spouses, same thing with our parents, the lack of love and conditioning that we didn't grow up with in certain environments. So yeah, you hit on all those. That's why I thought the poem was so eloquently said, and it was still a question at the end. It still left you at a cliffhanger. It's like, you call them father, husband, brother, son, and it's like, how does that not relate to humanity if somebody that wasn't Black was listening too, right? So for us, it's like we are to each other. We have to be those things, brothers, sons, and fathers. So we have to go whatever drama and issues that we dealing with. We just got to keep going because our son is watching us, our mother or our daughter, it doesn't matter. And those relationships get entangled because of that pattern. And I have a long story about that because I have a daughter, and it sucks because violence, disrespect, all these things are like this is like she said, society. They look at those things and they promote them versus respect, honor, dignity. Looking into a person's soul, trying to understand why you are here, the existence from a good and evil standpoint, because we know it exists, versus looking at everything materialistic. And I'm saying that I'm rambling a little bit, but I think you hit on all those things, the material stuff, everything. That's a great poem, and I think we as men we got to do better. And like Mike said, I kind of feel called out as well, but not because I feel regretful, but because I know there's hope for the future. Because this just happened, this moment right here, right now, tells me I can learn, be better from my existence, and just listening to such a beautiful poem that I just heard. So that was awesome.
Yeah, she was down my side. I have to say, Natasha's always done a good job anytime that I've had her for any event. She's very professional with what she does, and I know a lot of you guys seen Love Jones, so it kind of reminds me of of Love Jones and a scene where Lorenz Tate was in the poem hall, and he was talking to Nia. He was talking to Nia Long, and he was trying to, rap to her and tell her, how he was, the blues between your thighs and things like that. And it's just the way that I guess the poem was that she kind of felt called out. And it kind of, shows that, some people don't really, I guess, think about the things that they say before they do it. And I just like to say that, I hear you, Natasha. I know, it's not gonna things not gonna get done overnight. So we have to do better as men, and even with the music that we choose to promote, because we have to start promoting artists that do uplift women and do talk about other things than sexualize the women's body and things like that. So it starts with us, and we just have to just keep going forward with the conversations like this.
I think for me, when I'm so sorry, Nate, I cut you off. Go ahead.
There's so much to unpack in that poem, because I that was just like reading me. So I come from, like I said before, a single mom home, and my mom was like hardcore. I stopped short of saying abusive, but it was always violence. It was always be a man no matter what the situation was. It was always her shedding women, especially in adolescence, when you started trying to feel your oats and trying to look at girls, you would always say, they don't mean you no good. So from all that abuse, I was always trying to prove I was a man. And manhood means sex. Manhood meant I wasn't no punk. Manhood meant I'm ready to go. It took me years and years and years to actually grow up. And part of that, at some point, I guess, in a sense, my wife was like a surrogate mother, because I didn't want to grow up. I wanted to stay in the streets. I wanted to drink, like Mike Day had said. And I wasn't being the man that she needed, because she was playing the role of that mom because she knew my story. So I think in some respects, we need to do something to address that part of us as well, because I hear a lot of people saying, especially people look at women and say they're angry Black women, but they want them to be strong at the same time. and when they're having kids, and a lot of times, like in my wife's case, she was actually raising a grown man too. So that's a lot to unpack. Girl, you did a good job.
And I know, Natasha, you wanted to talk, but Nate, the part about like your wife almost acting like your mom, and like that's what I have to, attribute. I could be like dead or locked up if it wasn't for my wife. That's kind of like where when you coming from a world of criminal activity, that's what you grew up in Little Rock. It was either fight or flight, and you said, like you said, I'm ready to go. It didn't matter what was going on. If I needed to, and that ends up us being a statistic, like she said, because we have to. It's like a survival. It don't matter. You know what I mean? Every day was about getting to the next day. It wasn't about. It's like you in the jungle. You really are in the jungle, and you can basically take that. The system knew that, so that's why we have a prison in the pipeline, because our whole mentality was just getting to that next moment, and our moms kind of was preparing us like cheetahs would prepare their cubs, because they knew they would have to leave us. You know what I mean? Like immediately. It wasn't no, oh, this is gonna be good. No, it wasn't. You got to get out by 16, 17 years old.
Yes.
And know how to fend for yourself in the world, period. And then deal with the violence that came with it, the drugs, the sex, all of that came with it. So I agree with you 100%. Good stuff though.
Yeah, so when writing the piece, I think it's so easy to identify depression in a woman. I think the way we show depression, it's all the normal signs of the sadness, the weight gain, the fatigue. But I think that we don't identify depression in Black men because those actions are seen as such a normalcy. Like if a man has 7 different women, like that's what he's supposed to. That man is sad. That man is broken. That man is using these women to feel some type of void he has. But because we're taught as a culture that this is normal, then that keeps Black men from seeking help. Because if all I'm doing is what is normal, then nothing is wrong with me. And so I think that was just the premise behind wanting to write that poem is I think we've spent so much time making this toxic behavior such a normality for our culture that we can't even see that these are men who are literally like begging for help.
And to piggyback off of Natasha, I'm sorry, Mike, but I don't want anyone to feel as if her poem, because she even said before this aired, like I don't know if I want to do it live because I don't want anyone to feel as like you guys are saying called out. It's more as if just from, like she said, we always talk about depression in women to where I'll be transparent with you. We could have took every part of man out of that poem and put one woman, because we also do the same things. We hang out with our friend girls and excessively drink to cover up emotions, eat ice cream, go out in these skin tight outfits, not for ourselves, but to makes another man upset for, you know what I'm saying? It's so many unbalanced dynamics in our communities. And as Mr. Carl and Mr. Nate said, it stems from the childhood of being put in an environment where we are unable to ever control it. So if we're in an environment where we are no control, we're raised up in a violent, full of fear, lack of safety, sadness, no trust within our own homes. Now we convert into adulthood and we carry those same qualities of, I don't trust the world. It's violent. I'm fearful of the world. I lack safety at home. You cannot tell me there's safety when I leave this home. And things like that. And it just goes on. And as individuals, we want to process and say, oh, that's not gonna bother me. I'm survival of the fittest. I'm gonna survive. So we just continue to survive, wake up every day, survive, wake up every day, survive. But we never say stop. Since I can't control my environment, what skills will I learn to adapt to my environment? I'm not trying to survive, I'm trying to adapt, because in order to survive, you have to be able to adapt to uncontrollable environments, right? So with that being said, if a man, since we're on the subjects of men from a woman's point, if he's raised in a home where he's seeing his mother get abused and she's laying in many men in and out of the home excessively. He's only looking at his mother as, what is she doing? Not knowing she's a broken woman inside, and she's also trying to supply a feeling that she lost a long time ago. So it puts a wedge between the the son and mother dynamic from the beginning, because the son isn't aware to say, wait, my mother is broken. Where did she become broken at? You get what I'm saying? So I'm gonna stop talking because I'll talk too long. But that's what I feel like. We didn't want you guys, and that's why we're here as the women. We're here to protect you. We also have to protect our Black men. I know they say it doesn't exist, but it actually is a Willie Lynch theory where they were trained to mentally control us, and it's still prevalent today in 2020, because we're still doing dark skin versus light skin, good hair versus kinky hair, nice clothes versus you not dressing so fly. The older men trying to compete with the younger men instead of leading them as guidance, and instead of trying to dress like them to be one of them, maybe you should dress like them to bring them to you, to educate them. And so that is something that was put in our community in 1905 in Virginia. So they knew how to mentally control us by teaching the Black woman, you should be independent. You don't need a Black man. Black men, you should hide, because if you're too strong, you might get killed in the middle of the street. So Black women, raise your Black men to know they should be died down a little bit, suppress their emotions. Don't let if you living in the fear, they taking the strongest man in your community and beating them half to death in front of your eyes, you're going to go home and try to tell your son not to be so strong so he doesn't have to turn around and be that victim. So that's what this space is for you guys to open up and think about that, and think about how deep trauma actually goes, because hurt people. So if we keep saying we breaking the cycle, that means someone has to step out that cycle and say, yeah, my mama was abusive to me, but I understand because her mother was abusive to her. Like, it's not making an excuse for these people, but it's really understanding what the cycle means. It's hurt people continuing to hurt people because no one stops and analyzes, where were we broken? Why are we broken? And why are we trying to hide that we are broken? So we're going to leave it open at that. Okay.
Well, I don't think when we say calling out, it's not like it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing in a way that it brings out emotions that you don't necessarily like. This whole thing, even just listening to you, that was a sermon, and we need to hear it. And I think that's what we're talking about more than, like it's not bad at all. And I appreciate that. And I think for having those nuggets that we all gonna take away from this moment to be able to digest. When I'm gonna go back to doing what I'm doing, you are too, and everybody else that's on this deal will too, but we be able to think about them. And I think that's what we're talking about, stuff that we can recall and digest and really gnaw on, because it's like Nate said, it's a lot to unpack. You know what I'm saying? So we don't like necessarily, and I say we as men, it's like, give me a honey-do list. I don't give it all to me at once sometimes. I want my, just 2 or 3 things to do, and then give me another 2, 3, keep me busy. What she did was just drop the whole thing on me at once. And that's what I'm saying about calling out. I need to think about that. You know what I mean? I need everything. So I might think about it next week. I'll be like, dang, that's how this is, so that's what I think we were meant by that.
I believe she did a beautiful job to open the floor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's going to open discussion greatly. So I'll give the floor back over to Tay.
And thank you again for that poem, Natasha. It was amazing. Thank you so much for that. So we'll move along and we'll kind of dive into depression, trauma, PTSD in men and women. So I know some of you kind of shared some of your experiences, but is anyone a former victim of domestic violence, or a person who grew up in a violent home, or a survivor of sexual assault?
Well, I grew up in a home where, my mom verbally abused me a lot, just because of the color of my skin. Sometimes I thought, something was wrong with me because of how dark I was compared to my brothers and such. She'd call me Blackie, or, you know, like darky sometimes and things like that. And even my cousins, you know, call me monkey, things of that sort. So a lot of times my mom also said that she used to yell at us to keep from whooping us. And I didn't get a lot of beatings and such, but, you know, verbal abuse is just as the same as, you know, physically abuse. So I learned that, you know, growing up, my grandma did some similar things to my mom. You know, she used to lock her and her sisters in the closet for hours at times. And my aunts, they would yell, but my mom, like, you be quiet, you know, grandma let you out. You know, you'll get out sooner and things of that nature. And so it's just, you know, like you were saying, like hurt people. And I think my mom tried to do her best, you know, with the things that she was growing up with, you know, instead of whooping us, she yelled at us, and she didn't want us to, you know, feel that physical abuse, because even then, as my mom got older, my mom still was disrespected by my grandma. I remember one night we all staying at my grandma's house, and my grandma came in the living room while my mom was asleep because she needed someone to come go pick up my cousin from work after she got off of work. And one thing led to another. My grandmother came in the living room and started beating my mother in the head with a shoe. And my mom was like, you know, 40 years old, so she's a grown woman at this time and have grown children of her own. So it was always the disrespect there, you know, with my mom and my grandmother. But over the years, my mom's learned to forgive her mother, my grandmother. My grandmother passed away this March, and, you know, before her passing, you know, her and my mom had a good relationship. Even up to, you know, her passing, she took care of my grandmother, and she cared for my grandmother for years and helped her back to health. So I know what, you know, growing up in a home with domestic abuse looks like. And me being in a relationship now with a woman who has 3 children, I'm trying my best to try to, you know, learn to do a different lifestyle, but also be mindful that, you know, these are children and young men that she's raising, and I can be a good influence to them if I can try to break the cycle. So yeah, I understand what a lot of people go through, and I hopefully that, you know, the safe space and conversations like this will keep happening to help all of us.
Thank you for sharing, Devonta. That's powerful, and it does take strength and courage to share personal things like that, and especially coming from a male point of view, because a lot of men don't open up about things like that and are afraid to admit how they affect them as an adult. So thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else who would like to share an experience of abuse or surviving or just seeing abuse growing up?
Well, yeah, I came from a home. That's one of the reasons why I decided to do this. Back when Dr. Verlander started it, is because I was abused as pretty much my whole childhood. My mom, she has alcoholism. Actually, she's been committed twice, and I've been taking care of her like the last 15 years. And basically, she abused me, my sisters, we had SCAN. I don't know if anybody know about SCAN, but it was a program for Arkansas. But they came and viewed the kids. They basically look at you, as, like, making sure you don't have any webs on you from getting hit with hangers, belts, extension cords, vacuum cords, whatever she had in hand. That's what we got hit with. And so it was pretty traumatic a lot of times. And then, you know, that you carry that as you grow up. So even though to this day I still, you know, help my mom, and I think the importance of forgiveness is huge, not only because it helps you to move forward, but it also, like Devonta was saying, his mom and her mom came to a point before she died, and it's sorry to hear about that, Devonta, because I know it still hurts, regardless of how the relationship were. That's still your family. So my prayers go to you. But we these stories are so deep and they affect us in so many ways. So growing up in a home where domestic violence taught me how to treat people better and try to like Devonta said, was break the cycle. And my plan is just treat my wife with respect. Any woman I come around with respect. Teach my daughter to be respectful and know when a man is treating her with respect and when they choosing not to, and how to get away from that. So I'm trying to implement that, but also understand and listen when those opportunities come from, and just be more aware of how I talk when I say, speak up. Because we as men, we feel like we can say anything, and sometimes those are opportunities we take advantage of. But raised up in a home of domestic violence has just taught me to just try to just be different when it comes to interactions and expressing myself and being emotional and saying, hey, I got a problem, and going to go get counseling, which I've gotten, especially, having to commit your mom twice. It takes a toll on you. And I was there, they come in, they put shackles on her feet, just like she was a criminal. It was traumatic. That's traumatic, let alone what happened to me when I was a kid. So this was within the last 10 years. So it's a lot. And so all of us have stories, and I'm just super appreciative to have this space. And I think that Natasha, Tyra, Octavia, thank y'all for creating this space for us to be able to share these things, because nobody's asking about this. Devonta, nobody's asking about that. So I think this is very important. So I really appreciate y'all for doing this.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
Thank you
Sorry,
so
I
much
tell
for
you.
sharing. Go ahead.
Mike.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's amazing, like just listening to both D and Carl's stories, like how all of us relate in some type of way, So I think back in 2017, my grandma passed. Long battle with cancer, diabetes. She was from the country, but she verbally abused my mom a lot. And my mom, I used to grow up thinking like, dang, why mama always mad? She come home, I know she don't like a job, but you would think when she comes home to her family, everything will be okay. Well, that quote in the Black family, what happens in the house stays in the house, and that also includes children staying in a child's place. This is grown folks' business, and so I didn't know that, grandma was verbally abusing while she was loving me like her own. She was verbally abusing my mom. She didn't approve. She never approved of my dad in their 25 years of marriage, never liked my dad. And, it was so much. And, when we got the call that, she wasn't going to make it past 48 hours, between the 3 and 6 months when she had left, my mom was taking real good care of her. And I'll never forget this conversation with my mom. Like, we were at the funeral, and it's like all her burdens were gone. Not because my grandma passed away, but because she was like, your grandma just finally said, I'm sorry. And you could like see my mom's body, like, that's all I wanted as a child. And so, in saying all of that, I've learned a lot from my dad. He treated my mom with the best respect. Like, my mom could have the worst day, and it was just, my dad has always been calm. You never really heard him yell unless you did something stupid in class. Then, whatever. But, while we talking about these unfortunate generational curses, I think I've been blessed with passing on generational blessings. So I am now happily married. I have a beautiful son, and I think it's my duty as a man, just to continue that blessing that my dad gave me, not just to my wife, not just to my son, but anybody who feels like they just need somebody to listen to. My dad was that guy. He was a lot of fathers' the father figure, you know, trying to create basketball and football teams to keep us out of trouble. And, you know, he would always listen to people's problems. You would never, and he would never tell about them. So, you know, it's a lot. So, you know, to Carl, to D, to Nate, everybody here, you know, just if you need that outlet, you know, please find somebody who is willing to listen.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on an experience?
Yeah, so I wanted to say something really quickly. So kind of like Carl said, I'm from Little Rock. I grew up in a 2-parent household. Both of my parents had multiple advanced degrees. And I say that to preface that even all of that stuff happening, I still saw some things in my household growing up as well, just to kind of preface it by saying, like, there's a stigma that domestic violence or sexual assault is reserved for like the lower class people, or like people who don't hit a certain socioeconomic status, which isn't true. It affects so many people across so many barriers, races or whatever. For instance, one of the things I had totally forgot about it until I kind of started hearing some of you guys' testimony. I remember one time I'd woke up, I was in high school. So I mean, like, I knew domestic violence and all that stuff was wrong, but in my household, I pretty much just witnessed my mom being abusive towards my dad. My dad is pretty, I say calm, just chill. He doesn't really do too much, but sometimes my mom had a temper. And most of the time when they get into arguments, I see my dad try to get out, and then I've seen her like forcefully restrain him from like preventing him to leave. There've been some times where she would say something and try to get me involved in it as well. Specifically, one time I remember she tried to say that my dad hit her, and she wanted me to run to the neighbor's house to go call the police. And I mean, I'm in high school, so I'm old enough to know what's right and what's wrong. But like, just the trauma that I faced, like, am I really about to call the police on my dad to get my dad taken away from my house? I mean, but he might have hit my mom. I don't know if he hit my mom or not, but he might have hit my mom. She says she did. He says he didn't. So I didn't know what to do in that situation. And I mean, that was a really traumatic experience for me that up until this moment, I totally forgot even happened in my life. But I also just want to say thank you, everybody, for your testimonies as well.
I think,
sure. Go ahead, Nate.
The thing about it, I've heard these stories and I've lived a lot of these stories, and we don't have that therapeutic place to go like a lot of different races do, and they can go to the counselor and talk. All we got is church.
Right.
All we got is church, just like Natasha said. You know, it's always been pray on it. And that's good. I love the Lord, but it's got to be something else. So I can't imagine my child going through that. I tried to learn from what was done to me and to do the opposite. That's all I could go on, you know. And you talked about just wanted your parent to say, I love you, or I'm sorry. And man, that's huge. It seems like it's small, but it's really not. Because all you want is for somebody to, you know, just love you. It doesn't matter if we Black or not. We need that as well. So, man, this panel has got my mind just going all over the place. It's an awesome experience right now.
Yes, I agree, Nate. It's really opening my eyes to a lot of things. And, you know, because some of us know each other in the community, but you never know what someone has been through, and you never know their story. And a lot of times we are all so similar and don't even know it. So, again, thank you all for sharing. Go ahead, Natasha.
I grew up in a home where drugs played a heavy factor in my household. I was a crack baby. Most people know my story. I have no problem with sharing that. Both of my parents are addicted to crack cocaine. And I think for such a long time, I had this image in my head because of the domestic violence things I would see in my household and blah, blah, blah. I would say, oh, I have daddy issues. That's what it is. But I don't. And I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away as I've become older is I have mommy issues. And I think we're so quick to discuss like people having daddy issues, especially in women, and how that affects things in their life. But I think we give women, when they are the abusers and or the aggressors or the attackers, in whatever sense that is, I think we give them the excuse that it's okay because A, no one wants to really say that they're being abused by a woman, and B, we give them like, oh, something must have caused it. And I say we because I'm looking at myself. I gave my mom all of the excuses over the years, and my dad could cough wrong and I'd like die. I would be just so aggressive, like, ugh. But then I realized as I'm older, like I look at myself now and I'm 31 and I've never allowed a man to live in my house. I've never lived with a man. I don't get into like serious relationships because for me, it's just easier to like keep arm's distance. And that is one of the things I'm working on in therapy. But it is one of those things that without even paying attention to, I have taken from my childhood and from the abuse that I was around growing up.
So the reason I take so much passion when I talk about this topic in our community is because I myself grew up in a home of abuse. My parents were married, but like Evan said, you don't have to be in a one-parent home to witness trauma, or just because when we're out in the community and our family pictures are so beautiful, many people don't stop and see the pain in our eyes because all they can do is see a smile. So when earlier when Tasha said walking around for years being an active person with depression or anxiety and just really carrying it so well that no one sees the load on your back because you're able to carry it so well. And then we make excuses like, no one's ever here for me. But it was this year I had to stop and say, no one's ever there for you because they really don't know what you've been through. You carry it so well and smile so bright. That's all they can see with their physical eye, because a lot of people cannot see past physical. So we don't really get deep into how someone is on the inside or how they feel emotionally or how the eyes are really a gateway to our soul. So I say all that to say, my father was abusive towards my mother. He's a paranoid schizophrenic. He's a Marine. He has PTSD from Desert Storm. So there was many nights he'll wake up out of his sleep and put pistols to our heads because he is in a state of mind. As a doctor say, he felt like he was at war, combat, PTSD. So to grow up in just those type of environments, people wouldn't know that about me because I go to school and I play basketball. I tried to stay quiet, but of course I was labeled a delinquent because I had anger issues, but no one ever stopped to say, why is she so angry? Well, I couldn't punch my dad in the face after watching him punch my mom, so I might as well come to school and punch up here. You get what I'm saying? So and for years, I walked around functional. I have 2 children from situations to where I can't even say I was in relationships because it was just a night of seeking comfort or vulnerability in falling into situations of really reflecting the fact that I didn't love myself enough, because it doesn't matter what people see when they see you. It matters what you see or what you have witnessed and what you hold in. I've been sexually abused since the age of 4. And it wasn't by a man, it was by a woman that was supposed to be my babysitter. And I didn't disclose that until this year when I started counseling, because I said, if I'm gonna do this job, it's certain stuff I have to let out the closet, because I would hate for my mom to get on YouTube and just hear that my babysitter was sexually assaulting me at the age of 4. Or the fact that when my dad will come home either high on crack, my dad still does. I don't call him I say that's his drug of choice because everyone has a drug of choice or some type of outlet that they use as a coping mechanism. And that's why it's important to learn positive coping mechanisms, because we can fall in life and just start to pick up coping skills, but they're not positive, they're negative. So it's drugs, like we said, sex, spending money on material things, buying these big homes that we're actually dead on the inside. It just look nice. So things like that. And I can understand how I thought like, oh, I must got daddy issues because I can't love a man. I'm 32 and I have never lived in a house with a man. And that will sound crazy to somebody because they'll look at you and say, how do you have an 8-year-old? I mean, she's not even 8, an 11-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you have never lived with a man. That's because I don't trust men from trauma. My dad's so concerned about who's looking at my mom's at the party. You don't know your friend in the room molesting me in the back room because you're focused on other things. And that's why it's so important. The main people that suffer from domestic violence is the children, because when you grow up as a child, trauma, now you transition into adulthood. We take, for example, Tasha, our first 10 years of adulthood just trying to heal ourselves. So now you got years of trying to heal yourself on top of years of traumatizing yourself from not loving yourself, from not receiving love. And once again, we go back to that cycle. It just continue to cycle, because as I get older and I sit around my aunties and grandmother and learn my grandmother was abused by my grandpa. So that's where it comes, where a man witnesses a child boy and grows on to carry to, he got one or two options. He gonna take it as a lesson and love his wife better than his father has ever loved anybody. He just gonna turn around and, like in the poem say, reflection on your father, you do all the same things you hated so much of him. And this year in my life, a part of counseling was my mama left so much throughout my childhood, and I resented her, like, why do you keep leaving me? I remember I lost my virginity at 17 when my parents were getting divorced. So that tells you how much trauma can guide you down certain paths. And we never stop as individuals or even parents and say how much this is affecting, the mental state of our children, to witness these things and not understand what love is. So this year in my 30s, in my book, I said, I'm going to build a relationship with my mother. That's what I'm missing. I know who my daddy is. I had to live with him after my mama left, and I had to get the abuse because he was so mad at her. And I'm not mad at him because hurt people. And that's how I heal, because I understand that he's addicted to drugs, yes, because there's somewhere he broke, probably in his childhood, that ain't been healed yet. So, and that's where, God comes in for me, and I just leave it in God's hands till I believe. I got so much faith in the fact, if I step back and don't allow my dad to abuse me, maybe there is recovery somewhere, because no matter if you're a perpetrator of something is worth you living for. And when you make a conscious decision to make a change for yourself, it's very possible. So I don't ever want to bash my father as if he's a bad person because he mentally, physically abused us, because he was doing the best he could. He also provided for us and fed us and taught me the morals to where I am able to walk in rooms and come from my background and still present myself as a strong Black woman. So it's important for men and women to just acknowledge, look in the mirror, acknowledge what's wrong, where it's broken, forgive yourself first and forgive everyone around you, and start that process of healing and seek some type of counseling outside church. The best thing I ever heard Lecrae say, which is a Christian rapper, just because I'm saying I need a therapist, I'm not saying the preacher's not doing his job, but she can do her job too. So that's very important for any community to know, as people, that just the community of trauma inflicted individuals. And so yes, I myself, Natasha, had to say, it's not daddy issues like they convince us. I have mommy issues. I don't know what it actually means to feel that love that I see my friends experience with their parents. I remember I used to spend the night at people's house and see them hugging their parents and kissing them goodnight and be like, oh my God, what are they doing? She just kissed her dad. That is weird. My dad, I never hugged my dad. I'm a 30-year-old woman. So if we hugged each other right now, it'd probably be very awkward. But that's healthy. But to set sex assaulted. My father has never sexually abused me, and I wouldn't play with him to that extent. I'm not saying family members haven't done it, or like I disclosed, babysitters, that people we trust around our children. But that's where that comes in, of just continuous cycles. I'm pretty sure someone touching on a child right now was touched on as a child. So, and that's what we mean when we keep saying, let's break the cycle. So big part of me breaking the cycle of abuse was moving to Arkansas, which is why I'm here. My dad still, he doesn't physically abuse me anymore, but he got mental control, because that's what narcissists can do to you. So I had to break free of that. I haven't talked to my father in a year, because it's important for me to heal for my children. I can't keep letting, that's how you break a generational curse. You really break it. And it's going to hurt your flesh to do it, but you break loose at any cost. And if God got to send you children, a pet, or anything to force you to do what you have to do to free yourself, I just recommend that you truly free yourself and let go of any burden or anything that's holding your shoulders down. Because as Black men and Black women, we walk around and carry it so well, a lot of people can't even notice that you're carrying it.
Thank you, Tyra, for sharing. A lot of you mentioned a few things that pretty much sends us into our next segment. Basically, Mike mentioned what happens in the house, stay in the house. And then I know Tyra mentioned not speaking on family secrets, but our next topic is the impact of family secrets and staying silent about violence or sexual assault. The impact of children witnessing domestic violence in their homes. Why do you all think we remain silent within our families and our communities? And I think most of us have all grew up like that. I don't know a lot of Black people who haven't grew up like that. So I'm really intrigued by this topic to understand what you all experiences are like. I know there are some secrets that I have that even just from listening to you all makes me want to tackle those things and mention these things, because these are things that I've held since a kid, and it really has me thinking right now. So do anybody want to attack this topic? Why are we so silent?
I think I remember having a conversation with Natasha. I think me and you talked about this, like why do we do this? Because in ways, what happens in the house stays in the house. That's a valid thing. Prime example, when, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, when he passed away, that is what happens in the house stays in the house for me. Like, if the media don't need to know, then that's perfect. But when it comes to, oh, your uncle did X, Y, and Z to your cousin, but we don't want to say anything because they love to see Black men in jail. I feel like, that's where everything goes wrong. I think, we're still caught in a system to where outside of our homes, hell, really even inside our homes, we're not safe, and so, to keep the police out of our business, unfortunately, you have a lot of people saying, your uncle did this, we know he wrong, we just won't talk to him anymore, as opposed to, let's get him in prison or let's get him some help. Oh my gosh, what the biggest theme in 2019 was the whole R. Kelly thing. And that really opened my eyes, because it was just like, we listening to these songs, but he's basically admitting like everything he's done. And then you have Black men and Black women defending him. And it's just like, okay, if this is happening here, then what is happening in my house? What is happening at my family reunions? And I think, because of the oppression that we go through, we don't want to see our Black men and Black women go to prison. Unfortunately, we bite the bullet, and then, we have children who can't heal because their justice hasn't been served.
It's misplaced protection.
Mm.
I think as a kid, I think that we assume children are not aware, and children are very aware. So, and I'll even say, based on my personal experience, it was protection, not of the person that was attacking me, but I was protecting my mom. I was protecting our financial stability. I was protecting the roof that was over our head. I was protecting her happiness. And so I think when you are a younger child and you take on the burdens of your family in the same sense that the adults in the house are taking on the burdens of the family. So if I know that this person that is abusing me is providing X, Y, and Z for this household, then I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Because the moment I speak and the moment I reveal my truth and or what is happening to me, then everything about my life changes. But it isn't just my life, because I'm okay with my change, but I'm also affecting my mom. I'm affecting my sisters. I'm affecting all these people I love that I feel like, in a sense, as a survivor in that moment, you feel like it's a thing of bravery. Like, I can just tough this out. I can deal with it. I can handle it. Because if I don't, then what is the results? If I don't, then we won't be able to do. And so I think a lot of it is, when you're young as a child, you're really just thinking about protecting the people that you love. And in your mind, it's one secret. Granted, the secret happens every time you're alone with that person, but it's one secret.
Right. And what made me, when I decided to say, you know what, this happened to me and I got to let it go. You know what, I looked in the mirror and I said, how, to the little Tyra, the little girl inside of you, how brave were you to actually keep that secret? Because you knew if you shared the secret, you was more protecting your dad from hurting a person and going to prison. Because we have a habit of saying, did somebody do something to you? Because I'll kill him. So now you're putting this fear in the child. If I tell my daddy he gonna kill this person, and he gonna be gone too. You get what I'm saying? So let me not tell anybody, because if I do, something's gonna go wrong if I release this secret. So I think we need to get in the habit to just having healthy conversations, to where we are more open with our children, to where there's a comfort level there, to where they're not holding in that one secret for 15, 20 years and have to run and tell their secrets to their friends or their friends' mom. Like, just really building that foundation with our kids from the beginning of when they have the understanding, and being transparent with them and not putting fear in them to come and tell us secrets like that, because healthy adults don't ask children to keep secrets. And sometimes, like you said, we keep in the secret to save who we love. And
so let me ask this, as a newly father, because I think what you say stands. If somebody puts their hand on my son or my wife, it goes without saying. So I guess my question would be, what would be good substitutes?
Give your children options on who they can go to.
Right.
I think it's so easy to be like, come to your mom, come to your father, but there's so much coupled with that. But I also think, like, for my nephews, I am also an option that my sisters are like, if you can't say something to me, if it makes you uncomfortable to tell me, go tell your auntie. Like, I think it's giving them options, because I feel like if I had another option that I could just tell, and then that option as the adult handles that situation, or, does whatever the adult should do in the moment, I think that's it. I think children need options on who they can disclose things to. But because we're like, what happens in this house stays in this house, you're only giving them you and their mother.
It's so confusing. It is so confusing because we say, if something happens and if somebody does something to you, tell me. But the no snitch rule trumps everything. And that's so confusing. Do I tell you or do I not snitch? Which one you want? It's crazy.
I think that no snitch rule is the Jim Crow part that's been infiltrated into our culture that basically goes against our moral bounding and what we know to be right or wrong. So it's like, I'm in marketing, and if over a period of time, if you can be conditioned to do something, you're gonna do it, regardless of self-consciously, regardless of how your intentions are. Sometimes subconsciously, you're gonna still make this action. I think that's what that no snitch is, like that street cred. That's all a lie, and it's all it's a fabricated reality that Jim Crow and the white man created, so we can participate in our own undoing as far as a community.
See, I think that's interesting because you say that, but then when one of these cops come around and kill one of us, they don't talk. And so that's an interesting concept. I've never heard the no snitching rule like that. Being from Little Rock, it's more so of, well, the cops won't confess who killed my homeboy. So when my homeboy does something, why do I need to participate?
Right. Well, I don't want to be a part of the participation of helping them, capture my homeboy. Even if I don't even agree with my homeboy, we could be enemies. I still am not going. So I think all it is, it undermines the safety of where I live, regardless of what happens. It doesn't matter, because if I know that the stability is not there in the community, then I know I can change the dynamics of who's in control of it. If I know it's a dope dealer there that has more power than the other dope dealer, then I can furnish one of them with guns to overtake and potentially kill a few niggas as a byproduct. And that's what they've been able to do. They plant, plot, and propagate in propaganda and put it in our culture, and we regurgitate it, whether it be through the likeness of Air Jordans or material things that we really have to have, versus us having loyalty to a system, a street that they created that a lot of times is some racist guy that hung black people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so committed to the street. Like, I got people on Wolf Street, Little Rock, and the Bloods in this area. This is a street, and they're gonna kill for anybody on that street.
Kill for it.
Exactly, and what that streets end up being is a part of a system that oftentimes infiltrates their ability to love the woman, and that's giving love to that community. The black woman that's been helping all the people there. They can go to get them freezer cups that nobody, you pay $1 and get your freezer. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't realize that was going on until it was over time. Now it's like, wow, we got to fix how we get that back. So
you just gave me a movie idea. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. But I thought it was an hour. I know this is something you can't put in an hour. We definitely got to probably set this for 2 hours, Tyra, but I might have to get ready and go.
We're getting close to closing out. We got like 10 more minutes, Mr. Carl.
Yeah, we'll be closing soon, and I would like to say, you may need a second segment, because it's so much we still have not really touched, and it's been so much good information. So yeah,
we're gonna make the people request part 2.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Definitely. And some of the questions I had were, what's the parent's responsibility to address the domestic violence issues with their children? And Natasha kind of spoke on that already. If anyone else had any insight or input on that. But we can kind of move along a little and go to the unprotected Black woman. Arkansas is ranked the top 3 in IPV homicides and number 1 in domestic violence relationship homicides for Black women. How does that make you all feel, being Black men and of course Black women on this call? What do you think about that?
We got work to do. Excuse me. We have a lot of work to do. So I do my best whenever making movies, whenever making music, hell, whenever just talking to people to let them know that a black woman is the reason I'm here. Outside of Jesus, outside of God, a black woman is the reason I'm here. I think I even read something that said, you know, your grandmother even partially carries you as a child because she carried your mother, and then somehow you already, like, women already have like an ovary or something. I don't know. It was something like that, but um just I think we have to do better as black men. You know, even with the Tory Lanez situation, it's just like, you know, you see some of your friends commenting and you like, bro, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you even saying right now? And you know, for me, my responsibility would include, you know, hopping in my DMs and like just hitting up my homeboy, like, what are you doing? Like, this ain't it. Like, make sure you do all your research because that ain't it. You know, trying to defend, you know, a black man for shooting a black woman. Like, you know, especially when the evidence is there. You know, I think I saw something that said, well, where's the camera? You know, where's the evidence? And in the back of it's like, well, if a cop comes and shoot me right now, do you need evidence to know that I didn't do nothing wrong, or are you gonna need that evidence? And you know, it's a conversation that needs to be had among black men.
Yeah.
I think black women have done all they could do. They're always at the forefront. They're, you know, going to war when we up against these police officers. Like, I'm a real big advocate for black women. And so, you know, my biggest example would be, you know, continue my blessing. I married a beautiful black woman. I make sure I treat her with respect on and off social media. You know, I have no say when it comes to what a woman needs to do with their body, when it's time to either abort or keep the baby. Like, know our role and continue to spread good examples. That is my personal responsibility.
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to add that how we spoke about family secrets. I think a lot of times us black women are super protective. We want to protect our people. We never want you to look bad. And I think that comes into play with these statistics because a lot of times we don't tell. Like, we get hurt and we just keep it moving. That's just how we are. We're naturally that way. And I think that also comes into play with this statistic and just like this conversation we have. And we need to speak. Black women, we need to speak up too and open our mouths. But like you both stated, this is an issue for both sides, for men and women. This is a us issue. How do we as a people combat this issue?
I think to piggyback off what you said is black women don't have believability though. Even when we tell you what happened, we have to prove it happened. Meg Thee Stallion, we saw the video of the blood leaking from her feet as the cops surrounded her. The hospital report said she was shot in both of her feet. The bullets came from the gun that Tory Lanez had. Nobody believes her. Tory Lanez said, I didn't do it, on top of a melody, and now the whole community is like, I knew she was lying. Dooba-dabba-dooba-doo. It's like black women don't have believability. You can have all the facts in the world and push it on the world and show the world like, hey, this is the thing that happened. And you have, I'm sorry, what was that?
They spoke on her physique because she's a tall woman.
Right, and it's like, because she's taller, she doesn't deserve protection. Oh, also because she makes twerk music, she doesn't deserve protection, even though black men have been making music degrading women since Hush was a puppy, since the beginning of time, the beginning of ages. But the moment that black women take over that conversation, then it's a problem. That's a whole nother topic. But I said all that to say, yes, it's really easy to say black women speak up, say what happened to you. But then I say what happened and nobody believes me. Not only do people not believe me, but then I'm mocked. Not only am I mocked, but I can go to the police, and until I am physically abused, meaning I have to have been hit, shot, or attacked physically, and I have to have bruises on my body to show the cops, then I can't get protection. I can't go up to you and say, hey, this man said he's going to shoot me in the forehead and he has been in my bushes for 3 days straight. I need protection. They will not grant it to you.
No, they're going to ask you, what did you do?
Thank you. And I know that from personal experience here in the NWA. They will not grant it to you.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the system too. And what's I'm like being straight up candid. Like when I heard about the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion, I was like, what did she do? Go off? You know, that's in what was my first inclination. But then I thought about the process and like whatever she said didn't probably merit a reaction with a gun and a bullet going to her foot, regardless of how she might have said anything to him to maybe encroach on his manhood. And I think that's what we got to talk about is ego, the id, and the Freudian type from a man's standpoint. We will do and respond to things in a very violent way if we feel sometimes vulnerable in our manhood. And that's that man. That's not me. I'm not speaking for no man on this panel either, but I'm saying our response sometimes can be very like taking a sledgehammer to kill an ant. And it's ridiculous, but that's because he is in a state of vulnerability and he's in a state of smallness and he didn't feel that he was being respected like he thought he should have. So he responded in the most grotesque way. And we have that in our society. And that actually in our society, and you spoke to it, Natasha, is more accepted than us being humble and saying, you know what, that's not the battle that I need to fight right at this moment. Maybe I should rethink this response. I don't think that what she did, whatever it was, merits me shooting her in the foot. And I think that inclination and just rationale and thinking about a response versus just having a knee-jerk reaction, which I think that was a culmination of what happened in that scenario with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez. It's just you can be inebriated, you have drugs involved, you have all these factors that come into play in our communities, and we have inhibitors that, you know, be detrimental to our response, even as the night progresses. I don't know what time this happened, but I bet it was late. I bet they were inebriated. I bet some stuff happened in between the interaction. I'm just saying all these things, assuming, because I've been in these situations, and you can de-escalate them if somebody there was with the right. Pac probably wouldn't got killed if somebody there with the right mind said, hey, you know what, this probably ain't the right time to be stopping somebody. You know what I mean? Like, we have to keep these things in our mind as we weren't there. But I can tell you, it's not, I don't think that's all, we can just take it and say, hey, we're not protecting black women because this man decided to be, you know, take the most grotesque approach. But I can see why, because my first inclination, what did she say? And that's the problem. That's the problem. And I think Natasha was saying, and Nate said the same thing. It's like our response as a society is, well, what'd she do to deserve that? And I think that's wrong. That is very wrong.
I just wanted to say thank you again, panelists, for joining us today. It's so much information, and like I said, it's still more that we have not even touched today. But I do want to ask you all, and also our viewers, can comment on the YouTube page, leave comments under posts, or just what is one thing that maybe resonated with you today, or any insight, something that stood out for you amongst this conversation, and could you share what it was and why?
Can I share first? Because I gotta go.
Go.
I'm sorry, but the idea of replacing our mothers with our significant others is something that I battle with, and I probably will battle with for the rest of my life, because I feel like I didn't get that. I mean, other than that, as a black man, not having that, you know, you gotta, it's the environment that you brought up in, and like the catering and the cultivating of love that a mother does for a son or a daughter or a child in general. And then you don't have it after you turn a certain age at all, period. So we do look to our significant others. And so that stood out the most for me. And I think that's what I will continue to gnaw on and kind of digest as I get older. They say you really don't grow up as a man until you're 40. So I'm about to be there in 3 years. So at the end of the day, I'm still mature, I'm still learning. I'm willing to say that and still vulnerable at that. So I really appreciate all this. This is awesome. And that's, I will probably be looking to that as a dynamic as I continue to grow.
Thank you so much, Carl. And we know you have to go, but we really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Everything
Thank y'all
that you
so
had
much.
to the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank y'all. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to be a part of it. And I'm sorry I have to leave so soon, but thank y'all. This has been great. This has been great. So I can't wait to see it on YouTube. I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else would like to share something that stood out for them, and how do you resonate with it, and why?
I would just like to say that just hearing all the stories, it doesn't make you seem like you the Lone Ranger. You know what I'm saying? And we get into this, well, this happened to me, and this is why I'm like that. But we don't think that it's happened to so many of us, and that I think if we would talk more and conversate more and get into safe spaces more, that we could understand each other a lot more. Specifically when it has to do with the Black woman and how we expect them to be so strong, whatever the case, ride or die, whatever the case, sleep on cardboard with you, whatever the case. We need to be more men and don't put them in those kind of situations. And so that's what I got out of it.
Thank you, Nate. And of course, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate all that you added to this conversation today as well. Did anyone else want to share?
Tyra hit on something earlier about the Willie Lynch theory and how basically, that theory is to how to control a slave for 400 years. I like to always tell people this, during 2020 feels like it's been like a shit show. Excuse my language, but you see that within 2020 everything is revealing itself, and so we got technically we were free. What was the year? When was the last year the slaves got free?
1865.
1865, and so almost four, within 400 years, we're going through so much, and everything is just slowly unrevealing itself to where eventually we will see the promised land of freedom, in my opinion. And that includes conversations like this. 10 years ago, you wouldn't even think about having this conversation, at all. And now, we're in 2020, I say this quote, white folks are even getting tired of white people stuff. Black folks are going to therapy. Black folks are starting entrepreneuring, and you see all these things happening. So while 2020 has been crazy for a lot of us, it's also slowly revealing itself, the world, the United States, and I think we're heading into the right direction. So even conversations like this will definitely be used for months and years to come, and people will be able to piggyback and have conversations in their own home. So Tyra, Evan, they are always on the forefront when it comes to something like this. So I can't thank y'all enough for even thinking of me, let alone being in the conversations. So thank y'all.
I'm gonna be honest, boss. I just do what she tell me to. If she want to do something, I just say yes, ma'am. So it's all her.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up for today. We just want to let our viewers know that feel free to reach out to Let's Talk NWA for any questions, comments, or any help or assistance you may need. The links and any information you need will be provided somewhere in this webinar. So please reach out. And thank you, Tyra, for inviting all of us for this experience. It has been very wonderful. And I too have learned a lot today. So thank you all.
We want to thank y'all for just donating your time and your experiences and, personal stories, because that takes a lot. And like Mr. Nate said, once somebody just open up the floor and say that, and you know, a lot of people will say, well, first of all, I feel comfortable with their personality. Maybe I can tell somebody because look, they've been through it, and everyone on that webinar has made a successful, you know, made themselves successful no matter what um, barrier or foundation of childhood they have experienced. So I just really am thankful because, like I put in your thank you notes, Domestic Violence Awareness Month is just about one, mourning victims because people do lose their lives to things like this. Two, celebrating survivors because just to be a childhood survivor or a survivor, period, you know, we need to celebrate that and let people know how much um, self-empowerment and how proud we are of them for escaping those cycles. And then we just networking because we really like they said, we want to see a change in our communities in every aspect of us just healing from trauma we never asked for in our ancestors because we don't think about it, but it still triggers down. And so we're just thankful that you guys donated your time. So with that being said, we're going to hope the community begs for a part 2.